the vibrant streets of Mexico City to the bustling heart of downtown Akron, Luis Escudero Muniz's story is a tapestry woven with ambition, resilience, and a dash of tequila. As the executive director of El Patron Tequileria Cuisine, Luis has redefined the essence of hospitality, merging his Mexican heritage with a flair for innovation. Raised with the values of hard work and kindness, Luis initially embarked on a path in mechanical engineering at the University of Akron. However, the magnetic pull of the family restaurant and a deep-rooted passion for the hospitality industry led him down a different road. Luis's journey wasn't just about switching careers, it was about embracing his true calling. At the helm of El Patron Tequileria Cuisine, Luis has not only crafted a culinary haven, but also a cultural cornerstone in Akron. His venture, launched amidst the challenges of the pandemic, stands testament to his unyielding spirit and commitment to community. Recognized with the prestigious 5 Under 35 award, Luis exemplifies what it means to turn obstacles into opportunities. With a unique blend of engineering acumen and business savvy, Luis continues to innovate and inspire. His journey is a compelling narrative of perseverance, cultural pride, and entrepreneurial brilliance. On this episode of Small Business Big Conversations, Luis Escudero Muniz of El Patron. Luis, welcome to Small Business Big Conversations. Hey, I'm really excited to have you today. I've been stalking you a little bit on YouTube and watching some tequila talks and trying to learn a little more, other than the limited knowledge I have of just like what tastes good to me and that sort of thing. But you and your whole kind of entrepreneurial journey and that you've been through is so much more than just that. So let's kind of start where we always do with these conversations, and just tell me a little bit about your restaurant, how you began. Give me the history.
Let's rock and roll, man. So my name's Luis Escudero. If you don't know me, Tequila Bay official as well when it comes to the tequila stuff. So I got started in hospitality when my father first opened our first family business, 2011, El Patron Mexican Cuisine in Seville, Ohio, which is still in operation. My dad's kind of retired to a degree. My sister still worked there. So, growing up, working there all the time, then decided to go to college and study engineering. So from a very young age, as we were discussing earlier, always instilled in work and the work ethic that my parents instilled in me. So I was always required to show up to work. I didn't have an out because my parents knew exactly what I was doing. So, showing up to work from very early age, learning all the kind of ins and outs of the restaurant, being at the host stand and dish in the kitchen. Eventually, I graduated to a server, to the bartending role, and then after I graduated college, I decided to take over some management responsibilities and started running my dad's business for some time, for some years. So, I think for me, my passion was developed and learned in the restaurant, and I developed that passion in hospitality. But early on I was in school for engineering, so it's kind of a weird trajectory of how now I own El Patron, and now how I am extremely passionate about tequila. But here we are.
So how do you go from the family restaurant to where you are now?
So it took time, and I think it took opportunity. I always tell my contemporaries, because they look at me and they're like, Luis, you're a young guy, how do you own a business, and how did you get there? So as I finished my degree in mechanical engineering, I decided that I wasn't probably fit to be an engineer. It wasn't my skill sets or my passion. And a lot of people would come into my dad's restaurant, and I was still washing glasses behind the bar, doing, restaurant work. And people would tell me, when are you going to get a real job? Not knowing that I would take a pay cut to be an engineer. So, but I didn't care. Wow. I think it was more the intention of just having the capacity and the humility to just know where you're at in that moment and understand that sometimes opportunities just present themselves. So working through college, learning my dad's business and kind of taking leadership from him, and then eventually running his business was what positioned me both financially and then experientially to start El Patron, which at the point I thought I knew everything. I'm going to open up my own restaurant. I know what to do. And then, you realize how much different it is to own, your business than to run it.
So, Luis, I don't want to insult you here, but it might have been better to know at the beginning of the 4 years in college that you didn't want to be a mechanical engineer as opposed to the end of the 4 years. But you did make that decision. We'll touch on that.
Yeah, it was a 5-year degree, in fact.
Even better. So we'll touch on that a little bit more and like how you, made the decision to switch courses there. But I think, first of all, family is so central to this story for you.
Yeah.
And beyond, learning the ins and outs of just what it takes to run and manage and really understand every part of the restaurant business, what about like the guidance and influence and support that you get from your family? How has that played a role in you branching out on your own?
Yeah. So my father, he moved his whole family from Mexico to here. So he's always been a risk taker. He's always been wanting to provide a better opportunity for us. So the family element is very important in what we've done. When my dad started his business and prior other things that he did before, like we were always required to be a team. Yeah. And I think when he started his business, that was what helped him push through some of the adversity. Because like any business, you open up and you face challenges and you make mistakes and you learn. But having that family to support you, in his case, was worker bees that could help him and offset things. But in my case was, when I had those challenges, like how did my parents step in to give me support, guidance, knowledge, wisdom, which helped me make better decisions as I learned through my own mistakes. So yeah, the family is very important.
On top of that, like you mentioned, your parents are immigrants. You yourself, when you were very small.
Yeah.
And there's, and maybe this is an overgeneralization, but there's, you really see the work ethic and the importance of responsibility and work ethic from immigrant entrepreneurs, especially first generation immigrant entrepreneurs. So how did that kind of shape your work ethic towards pursuing your goals in life in general, maybe not just with your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, and I think there's the family pressure of like your parents bringing you here. There's expectations, but then also just like the societal pressure of like what it means to be an immigrant and what responsibility you hold as such. So from a very young age, my parents always told us like, hey, be grateful that you're in this country. We're here to develop and build a different opportunity for you. And it was always, that expectation that like we had to maybe move a little bit different, whether that's something that as a minority or an immigrant you want to face. But there's like an added layer of responsibility. So I think that really shaped who I am as a person in respect to like some of the decisions that I make, some of the ways that I work, because I know that there are people that are looking at me as a Mexican immigrant and saying, well, putting me in a box, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's this and he's that, and the stereotypes which society carries. But so for me, I don't really use that as an opportunity to kind of like feel bad about me or let that slow me down. I use that as an opportunity to outshine and outperform and say like, although you might have me in a box, this is something that as an immigrant that I can become and I can achieve. So
you worked your way through college at your dad's restaurant, and you already talked about all the things that you learned as part of that, and being in every position there. What are some things that maybe you put your own spin on? So there's a lot of things this is the way that we do things at this restaurant, but when it's your baby, you raise it a little bit differently. So what are some things that you, from your observations and from your experience, are doing differently maybe than your parents have done? And do you get feedback from that or criticism or other advice, from the original entrepreneurs in the family?
And I think we alluded to that yesterday, how we were kind of, preparing for this, but we alluded to the fact that like, I think being an engineer was probably the best decision I could have made in the sense of how I look at business and how I analyze things and how I kind of plan, prepare, and pivot. So I always like to think outside the box, and I was once told by one of my mentors in engineering to always be an engineer that thinks outside the box. So now I'm a restaurant engineer. which I don't know if that really exists, but I
You
coined
should
myself.
put that on your LinkedIn, I think.
I coined myself as a restaurant engineer. But yeah, I mean, I think where I really started developing skill sets was in just pattern recognition and like business trends. So prior to the pandemic, I started building out my dad's restaurant's online platform, not knowing that the world would shut down. But I started seeing trends, and I started seeing ways that we could pivot and different opportunities that as a business that we could generate more revenue.
Yeah.
So when that happened, it was just a click of a button, and we were online doing online orders, doing carry out, and it really helped us pivot during a challenging time where restaurants weren't generating revenue through traffic. So
no choice, really. I mean, you had to change, or you had to adapt.
So while I was working on that, my dad was kind of like confused, like, what are you doing? Like, this is not what we do. This is not part of the business model. But, my parents always give me very constructive feedback. They'll always challenge what I do or, for their own reason, but they're very trusting in the fact that they've seen time and time again that the things that I do somehow, some way work. So it's very rewarding to see not only their challenge, because they deserve the right to challenge me.
Yeah.
They raised me, they birthed me, so I don't mind it. But then again, I use that as an opportunity to tell them like, yeah, like, you gave me all the skills to do what I do now.
Yeah.
So just trust me and know that I can change and do things. So between that and then now with the tequila world, when I was managing my dad's restaurant, building all those tequilas that were $500 a bottle, $1,000 a bottle, not spending my money, it was very easy to build out the bar, right? And Dad would always question me like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, this is not within the budget. But then eventually I started developing and curating the experience of people coming into El Patron, my dad's restaurant, El Patron, to taste tequila, to do tequila pairings. And that was kind of like the test of what I wanted to do with El Patron Tequileria in Downtown Akron, which is a full tequila experience where now we do media, we're doing dinners, we're doing all sorts of tequila-related Mexican experience. So
I think, a couple of things. One, it really seems like a lot of great entrepreneurial stories come from people who did go outside the box. Maybe they formally trained in one thing and then they go in a completely different direction, and it is that one thing, whatever it may be, that they originally learned that is a catalyst for their success in whatever other industry that they're in. So I definitely want to dig into that and talk about how that's working for you, and also kind of being innovative. When you think about the restaurant business, there are a lot that have always done what they've always done, and there are others who are constantly innovating and thinking about what is next. So let's talk about that next. We're going to take a quick break. Yeah. We'll be right back on Small Business Big Conversations. Stay right there.
My name is Chanel Walker. I am the CEO of Professional Inspiration, and we empower educators so that they can thrive in their profession and not burn out. Jumpstart has helped me go from just a teacher who had a dream to be an entrepreneur and help educators to a businesswoman, which has just been so impactful.
Jumpstart provides capital, services, and connections to help entrepreneurs grow. Get started today at jumpstartinc.org.
All right, we're back with Small Business Big Conversations here with Luis. Luis, I want to talk about your journey and your background in mechanical engineering, of all things, to eventually owning and managing your restaurant. So you touched on it earlier, but what really kind of inspired that transition? You said, okay, this isn't for me. How did you come to grips with that fact? And what was like the straw that broke the camel's back on that one?
Yeah, so, when I started college, I was very interested in STEM, and I had the brains to do STEM, so I dove into engineering. I did 2 years of chemical engineering, and then, having to work full-time to pay my way through school, the chemical curriculum really wasn't fitting to my lifestyle, so I went to the easier engineering, which was the mechanical engineering. So really when I realized I wasn't fit to be an engineer was when I did co-op and I was working at a company, being an engineer, and I just really didn't enjoy the lifestyle, or I also didn't even fit in the box of what engineers are, right? Kind of like not social people. Engineers tend to be stereotyped as like maybe not social or maybe a little bit too analytical. So my personality was just geared for relationship building, for hospitality, for sales, and I think that's when I had that experience. And I think it's always important to have experience and not sell yourself short from thinking that you can't do something, because you have to live through it, and you figure out that maybe you're not fit to do that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So when I had that opportunity to do co-op, it really helped me understand, like, I'm going to be in hospitality. I told my parents I'm going to drop out of college, and I'm going to run your business. And my dad's like, you're not dropping out. Because I was paying for school at the time, and I'm like, I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars more to do something that I'm not going to do, right? But my parents, again, are people that are always pushing my buttons and pushing me in the right direction because they know better. They've lived more. And although I can challenge some of that, I always end up listening to them and taking their leadership. So
You hear that, kids?
so yeah, it's very important to trust that and, to a degree challenge it as well. But yeah, so my parents didn't allow me to drop out. I finished my curriculum, and then once I had my piece of paper, I'm like, okay, Dad, like, I'm ready to run your business. And again, I think that was one of the best decisions, not dropping out, finishing what I started, because now I'm not forced to quit. I can't force myself to quit in business when things get hard or when things aren't going my way or when I don't like it. I just find a way to show up each and every day to solve the problem. So now we think about solving problems, which is at the core of what engineering is.
To do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So restaurants, when you think about opening a restaurant or in the restaurant industry, it's one of the most volatile industries that you want to get into. The success rate is very small, and most restaurants don't make it past like their first year. So I think the perk of being an engineer is the fact that I can manage and understand so many variables. Because in restaurants, there's so many variables that you manage and that change. So I think that was when I was able to understand that building those two skill sets of engineering and my personality and hospitality was the best combination.
So that is a great example of using that mindset to run the restaurant, to be a hospitality engineer, restaurant engineer, however you want to put it. But you mentioned thinking outside the box earlier. So when you think about being innovative in the hospitality industry, what are some of the outside the box things that you have thought about and then implemented in ways that have grown, what you're doing?
Yeah, I think thinking outside the box is at the core is just having the capacity to change and to pivot. And sometimes when you're doing business, it's hard to make changes. It's hard to understand that you can fail because, your ego kind of gets in the way. You're like, dang, I really thought this was going to work. And, you don't want to make those changes. So having the capacity to pivot and it gives you the opportunity to look in a different direction. So I always give this analogy that if I was an engineer that only had tunnel vision, I wouldn't know that there's a solution here. So that's where thinking outside of your realm of sight gives you the capacity to make those changes. So one of those examples is now I own 2 food trucks. I never would have thought when I first started El Patron that I was going to own food trucks. And I always wanted to own brick and mortars and do what I do inside a brick and mortar. But yeah, having that understanding gave me the opportunity that when it presented itself, I bought a food truck. It was during a time where Downtown Akron was still kind of going through some of the growing pains of post-pandemic, where we weren't generating enough revenue in-house, but the food truck was a tool that we used to reach and to bring revenue and to start tapping into marketing and brand awareness and money generation through an avenue that, if I would have been stubborn, if I would have thought outside the box, I wouldn't have had. So we bought the first truck, and then a year later we bought the second truck, and now moving into the summer, all I want to do is buy more food trucks. So I don't even know if I want to open up more restaurants.
I think you might just have a shopping problem. You're talking about all those tequila bottles, and now you're just going out
I
and
think
food
so.
trucks.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens when you fail? What happens when you try something new and it doesn't go the way that you wanted it to, or the way that you thought it might?
Yeah, I think failure's, cliche. It's the best way to learn. But when you have a strong team around you that supports you in failure and that helps you understand that they're ready to also move in that direction with you.
Yeah.
Makes it very beneficial and easy to change. So my management team has been there for me when I've had my worst moments or made my worst decisions. So failure gives you just the opportunity to understand that, it's okay. We're not born knowing everything, but then having the capacity to have grace on yourself and want to just like find a solution for that. So it requires a strong team, a strong backbone of people that believe in you, because it does get challenging when things don't work or when you're back against the wall and you don't know what to do. So it's not a one man army. It's a combination of people and ideas. So
I love that. So you've got El Patron, you've got the food trucks, the 2 food trucks, maybe more, TBD. You've also got your tequila education channel on YouTube. Talk about that a little bit, how you integrate your passion for tequila, other than the wall of bottles, into your business and the impact that that's had on your business.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of thinking outside the box and how business is done on the virtual end. So I've spent a lot of my hard-earned money on the media side, where I see the opportunity of how I can build a brand with our media, with our tequila, and how that can help us scale and prepare to scale for the future. So when I think about what I want to build with tequila and the experiences around it and the passion that I have for it, when I begin to expand into other locations, like tequila is a central focus of what we do. And I want people to be excited that if I'm in Columbus or in Cleveland or in Akron, people know like Tequila Bay is here. We're going to go drink some cool tequila with this guy, and he's going to come up to our table and do his thing. So the tequila education and the YouTube channel that we're working on is part of that intention, but also understanding that, instant gratification is not what I'm really built about. So I understand that things that matter take time to develop. So I'm willing to stick my neck out. It might seem crazy to, spend all this money on the production and invest so much energy into it when we post a video and it gets 100 views.
Sure.
Or a couple hundred views.
You got to start somewhere.
And you got to push through that resistance.
Yeah.
But I'm so sold on the vision of what I want to build that I'm not really worried on the short term, nuances of what that entails. So tequila is, it's on the back of my shirt. Hopefully we can get a shot of that. Tequila is at the core of what I do, and the passion and the brand that I'm wanting to create.
When you think of Ohio, you might not think of tequila first and foremost, right? But what have you seen as far as like audience reception, and are you starting to see maybe a community being built around knowledge of tequila and that sort of thing?
Oh yeah. People walk in El Patron knowing that like we have the biggest collection of tequila probably in Ohio, and that they can find those tequilas that they like, maybe their favorite celebrities tequila. And recently we hosted Eat Local Ohio, who's like a local like food experience on Instagram and TikTok, and we invited a group of food creators from Cleveland. And they sat in our private room, and I did the whole tequila masterclass. We did a course dinner, and they posted it on their, socials. And the response that we got from everybody watching was, people are doing this with tequila? We didn't know tequila paired. And then our guests that evening, they communicated like, we have never thought that this was in a Mexican restaurant, or this was the capacity that could be done. So I don't think anyone's doing it. So I'm pioneering that experience and that development of knowledge, because in Ohio, out of all places, you probably wouldn't think about. Maybe in Jalisco and Mexico, everyone, is about their tequila. So having that experience to see people just be wowed and understand the level of execution that we're doing is, again, part of the building blocks of the long-term goal that we have. So Eat Local Ohio posted their video. I think it got like 50-some thousand views. We've already have like 20-some people on our books for their own private tequila dinners. So again, I'm like very excited about that, because, for the longest time, I'm like, how do we find a way to get these people booked? And now people are receptive to that. So
that's awesome. Luis, I could talk to you about this stuff all day. Maybe with some flights in front of us would be...
I think I would have rather liked the flight than the water, but it's all good. It's 11 a.m.
We're going to take a real quick break. We'll be back with our Fast Five, our lightning round with Luis from El Patron right after this.
My name is Valerie Mayen, and my business is the Yellow Cake Shop Clothing Company. We have been operational since 2009, and I really didn't see some real actual growth until I started working with Jumpstart. When I learned how to actually keep track of my expenses and set actual goals, I was able to discover so much more that I was capable of that I didn't realize.
Jumpstart provides capital, services, and connections to help entrepreneurs grow. Get started today at jumpstartinc.org.
We're back on Small Business Big Conversations with Luis Escudero Muniz from El Patron Tequileria and Cuisine, and the time has come, our lightning round, our Fast Five. Luis, this is how this is going to work, okay? I'm going to ask you 6 questions. You have to answer 5 of them, okay? You get 1 pass if you want to use it. If you answer all 6, though, you win a prize.
Okay, good.
We have no budget for prizes, so what we're going to do for your prize is I'm going to get a Small Business Big Conversation sticker. I'm going to put it on a potted agave plant, and I'll send it over to you, and you can put it in your restaurant somewhere, all right?
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. So first of all, describe entrepreneurship in 1 to 3 words.
Entrepreneurship, 1 to 3 words. Leaders eat last.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Yeah. What app or productivity tool can you not live without?
Instagram.
Okay.
I like posting my tequila stuff on Instagram. Oh, yeah.
What's your morning routine?
I wake up, I take a really long hot shower, I meditate, I pray. I don't eat breakfast. I get my coffee, and then that just sets me for the next 5 hours of work.
What's something that you believe that everybody else would disagree with?
Oh, man. This is a challenge. Let's pass on this one right now, and then we'll come back to it.
Maybe come back. Okay, we got 2 more. As an emerging YouTube star, who's your favorite YouTuber?
I like Mr. Beast.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the easy answer, right?
He does a lot. Yeah, it is easy and quick. But he does a lot of cool, just crazy stuff. So Mr. Beast is dope.
What is your favorite tequila?
My favorite tequila, Tequila Fortaleza.
All right.
Which is Tequila Los Abuelos, is one of the best.
What's the price tag on that one?
Pretty reasonable. A fifth of their Blanco is about $70.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back.
Yeah.
So
I want to win the prize.
What's something that you believe that you think everybody else would disagree with?
Oh, man. I don't know. Let's see. I'd rather drink tequila over water at this point. I don't know.
I think that some people will agree with that.
But yeah, I think everybody, that's challenging. But tequila, tequila for breakfast, I guess.
Yeah, maybe not first thing in the morning. Yeah. All right. Hey, you've answered all 6. We'll figure out a way to get that prize sent over to you. Luis, this has been great. I really appreciate you talking to us. We have come to the end of our time, unfortunately, but now it's your time. It's time to plug everything. Yeah. Tell us about the restaurant, about the YouTube channel. Where can people find you? What else do they need to know?
Well, yeah, thank you for having me here. I had a great time. I think you guys run a very nice production. I just want to shout that out first. But yeah, please do come see me at El Patron Tequileria in Downtown Akron. We are on the corner of Mill Street and High Street, across from the John S. Knight Center. Or you can spot one of our food trucks at any event, big event here in Ohio. If you want to watch my tequila channel and learn about tequila, please follow me on Instagram, Tequila Bay Official, YouTube, Tequila Talks. And then also, if you'd like to join me for a private tequila dinner, please email me. You'll find my email on our website, El Patron Tequileria, and I'll be able to develop and build a curated 5-course dinner, 5 tequilas, and a masterclass where I get to teach you in person and I get to drink with you. That's my favorite part. I get to drink with you some of the best tequilas that you probably have never heard of, but some of the best tequilas in the world. So, again, thank you for having me. I had an excellent time, and maybe another time we sit down and drink some tequila.
I'm coming down 77 as soon as
Tequila
we're done with
Talks.
the shoot right now.
Yeah, host you on Tequila Talks so
I love
that
it.
we
I'll
can
be
do
there.
some good tequila.
Luis Escudero Muniz, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
My guest today is Luis Escudero Muniz of El Patron Tequileria and Cuisine. Visit his restaurant in downtown Akron, his website at elpatrontequila.com, and follow along on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks to Luis for joining us today. Thanks to the amazing folks here at Bar Studios for all their work on the production side behind the scenes, to the team at Jumpstart that makes all this possible, and of course to you for tuning in. While you're here, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, wherever that button is, somewhere around here down below, or wherever you get your podcast to make sure you're updated on the most recent episode of Small Business Big Conversations. I'm Freddie, and we'll see you next month.